Okay, guys, I'm going to attempt to explain some of this theory to you. We had a lot of this before we went before schools had to close. And what I gave you was basically a review, but if we don't do this stuff every day, it's easy to forget what's going on with it. At the beginning of the year, it didn't look exactly like this, but at the beginning of the year, 5th grade, I gave you a picture of a keyboard and told you we'd be using it off and on throughout the year, so that should be in your binder. If not, then just go ahead and look at this one here the best you can. The notes, see this set of 3? This is F, G, A, B, and then between B and C there is no black key. We'll learn more about that later. Then we got D, E, F, G, A, and B. So the musical alphabet, as you already know, starts with A and goes through G and then starts over again with A. And pretty much on a piano keyboard, middle C, most of you have heard of that. Then below that, on the left is going to be the lower pitches, and on the right is going to be the upper pitches. The clef signs, if you play flute or clarinet or trumpet or saxophone, you're going to be playing in treble clef. If you play trombone, baritone, or tuba, or timpani, then you're going to be playing in bass clef. But it's important for you guys to learn to read a little bit in both clefs, and it's really easier than you think it is. This down here, I didn't give you this page to do, but I just want to go over this real quick. Keep in mind that the bass clef it's like an ear here, looking like an ear, and then the 2 dots are on the second line, around the second line from the top. That name of that line is the note F, and sometimes that's called the F clef. On the treble clef, you have this little design here, and then the circle goes around the second line from the bottom, which is the note G, and we call that sometimes the G clef. So here are some examples, and you can tell which ones are drawn correctly and which ones are not. This one is correct because it circles the G line. This one is incorrect because it circles the B line. Going back to the bass clef, this one's incorrect because the dots are not around the F line, the second line from the top, they're around the middle line. So I think you understand that. Let's move on to this puzzle that I had you guys do. It's easy to get confused, so let's just go over this real slowly here. When notes are placed above or below the staff, ledger lines, which are these guys right here, these little lines, are used to continue the pattern of lines and spaces. Middle C is placed on the first ledger line below the treble clef right here, or staff, and above the bass clef. So it's the first ledger line above bass clef and the first ledger line below the staff on treble clef. Okay, here in treble clef, all you needed to do was look back up here. This is 2 ledger lines down in treble clef, so that's going to be the note A. See how that looks just like that? And let's go to this one here. This is 2 ledger lines above the staff in treble clef. Find the one that looks like that. It's going to be C. And then you can find the other 2 in the middle. Let's do one of these in bass clef. You're supposed to write down the names of the notes down there. This looks just like that, doesn't it? But in bass clef, it's read differently. The 2 ledger lines down in bass clef is the note C, and then 2 ledger lines above the staff in bass clef is going to be E. So make sure you check whether whatever you're reading is in bass clef or treble clef. Here they want you to draw 3 C's all on different lines or spaces. So at C in bass clef, we've got one here, which is the one that we talked about. Then we've got one way up here, and it's up to you to figure out where the one is that's in between these 2. So an easy way to do it would be C, D, E, and then this first space would be F, G, A, B, and then C is going to be this second space from the bottom. And then draw 3 B's all on different lines in treble clef. Here's one that's given to you, and here's another one that's given to you. So using that same technique, count up to to find where the B is going to be in treble clef. Okay, on the crossword down here, all you have to do is look at the clef sign first, then look at the position of the note on the staff, and then find it. Well, it's not there, but it's one note below, or one step below this note here. So it's going to be what comes before C in the alphabet. It's going to be B. So this one's going to be B on the very top space. And then before going down, it's going to be A. And then what's this one going to be? You've got that one here, D. So to do this, make sure you look at your clef sign first, and you're going to have to do some counting to get some of this figured out, to get all of these words correct. Some of it is done with the keyboard down here, number 6. And if you get confused on that, go back to the keyboard I gave you at the beginning of the year. Maybe I should copy this page for you and send it home this weekend. I might do that. That way you have the keyboard here, and you'll be able to use that for any note name exercises that come up in future. Okay, the other one I gave you was sharps and flats in order. I skipped this because we've talked about that in band, and I skipped this because we've talked about that in band. We talked about that. I figured you knew all this, and I think you do. We're just barely learning key signatures, and we also started on, you all know eighth notes. We just did that recently. On the board I have the flats and sharps in order, and we have talked about that in class. But also remember, going back to your clef sign and where the notes are on the different clefs, the B flat is on this bottom line. Flipping back to the keyboard real quick. Actually, oh, looky here, I forgot about this. You can use this. I think I'll copy this page for you to help you with this. Okay, finding this B flat here, second line from the bottom, and bass clef, second line from the bottom. See how that's a B? And then B in treble clef is going to be the middle line of the staff. Okay, so the flat, and most of you had a good time with this. The papers I got back, this was great. Some of your little phrases were pretty funny, but you know, whatever it takes to help you remember. Of course, in class I've told you we've got bead, the word bead, and then you can think of greatest common factor to remember those three. And then of course the sharps is the flats backwards. So once you get this memorized, this comes easy. The only thing that I think you guys are having trouble with is understanding the difference between treble clef and bass clef and how they're written. And whatever instrument you play, you really need to, for your musical education, you need to learn to read the other clef just a little bit. So here's your, now down here, this is where some of you got into trouble. Write the same key signature in the other clef. So this is a B flat in treble clef, but remember B is not on the center line in bass clef. It's two steps down. It's to the line below that. So there would be your B flat. Same with E flat, you're going to go down 2. That's an easy way for you to remember that. This F sharp, if there's one sharp in the key signature, I hope I got this where you can see it. If there's one sharp in the key signature, it's always going to be F sharp. So the F sharp in bass clef is on the second line from the top, and it's going to go up 1. So in treble clef, your sharp is going to be on that top line. Okay, now we've got 3 sharps, and if you've got 3 sharps in the key signature, they're always going to be F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. So this F sharp will look just like that. Put that right here. Then the C sharp is going to be on this space down here because it's the second space from the top here. It's going to be the third space from the top here. And you can use this trick to remember them, and that will help you. And as you go on, you'll get more familiar with it. Same with the flats. This is B flat in bass clef, and it's going to not be on that second line from the bottom. It's going to go up 1 and be on the center line here. So I think you see the pattern now, so you can finish the rest of these. And here, this one is just to find the mistake. We've got, remember, you've always got, they're always in order. If you have 3 flats, they will always be B flat, uh-oh, that's not an E flat, is it? That's a D flat. So that's a mistake right there. They should be B flat, E flat, and A flat in treble clef. Okay, look at the sharps here. If you have 4 sharps, they will always be F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. So let's check our position here. We've got F sharp, that's correct. C sharp, that's correct. G sharp, that's correct. That is not the same, is it? That's on the center line, and the D sharp is on the second line from the top, so that one's incorrect. Okay, now you see the pattern, and you can go ahead and finish with these. I can't remember. I left my notes at school. I think I sent home, yeah, I did send home dots of fun, so let's look at that one. Whenever you have a dot after a note, the dot equals 1/2 of the value of the preceding note. A dot after a note adds half the value of that note. So if this note is 2 counts long, half of 2 is 1, so 2 plus 1 equals 3. So that, in 4/4 time, that note's going to last 3 counts. I don't think we've had that in band yet, but it's a pretty easy concept. So if you have a whole note minus 1 count, 4 minus 1 equals 3. That's the example here. Then looking at number 1, this note, remember, is how many counts long, plus a quarter note. Okay, so we've got 3 plus 1 is, and then you're going to have a whole note here for 4 counts. Okay, looking at number 2, how many counts in this note? Plus, and then 2 of these is 2/8 notes, and they equal 1 count. So you got 2 plus 1 equals, and you're going to have a dotted quarter note here. Okay, I think you understand that now. Looking down, 3 for all, dotted half note, we got key signature of 3 counts per measure, quarter note gets a count. So a dotted half note fills up the measure. Then we've got half note, quarter, 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 and then we're going to have 6/8 notes in a measure of 3/4 time. Okay, this part down here, you need to add stems to the notes. Make sure that there are 3 counts in each measure, and write the note names. Okay, this is going to be tricky. Don't forget you have a key signature to deal with here. So this is in bass clef. So to have 3 counts in that measure, this one could be 2 counts long, and then what have you got to do? We can't have 2 quarter notes because that'd be 4 counts. So we've got to turn these guys into 1/8 notes. And then, but writing the note names, if you need to go back to the page on that you had on ledger lines. There we go. Name of that bottom note. I don't see it here exactly, but you can count down from the notes that you do know or up. You can count from E is going to be the second ledger line down, so we can put an E here. And then the space in the middle would be F, and that's going to be G. And then we've got B, A. So I think if you are still confused and need to have this page with the notes on it, I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna send this home with all 5th grade on Sunday. So if you are still confused and you need to have a keyboard and you can't find the one I gave you at the beginning of the year, hold off on finishing this until you get that picture of the keyboard on Sunday, and then you can turn it in next week. Okay, I hope this helps straighten out some confusion, and I'll see you guys on Sunday. Bye-bye.